Okay, so I'm going to record the first page of this review sheet that you have here. And because I don't have enough room to obviously do it on here, I'm going to do it on the normal whiteboard app that I have. So let's try these first couple problems. So if you have if plus h of x, we would need to add f of x and h of x together. So when I do that, I'm going to take f, which would be 4x minus 15, and add that to x squared minus 9. These won't combine because they're not like terms, but these can. So we'll combine those two things, and we'll get x squared plus 4x minus 26. And that would be the first one. The next one is h minus f of x. And again, because we're plugging in f, or x, we'll just write down the two functions. So we'll have x squared minus 9 minus 4x minus 15. Now when you subtract these two things, this minus sign will actually carry to both things. And you can kind of think about this as we would, if you would just normally do it, you'd do negative 9 minus negative 15, which would end up adding. But we'll get x squared minus 4x, because that will become positive. That would be plus 6. Be the next one. Okay. Next one I get is g times h of 1. And again, g of x was this negative 2x plus 1. So we're going to plug 1 into there, and then we're also going to plug 1 into h of x, which h of x was x squared minus 9. So plug 1 into there. When I plug 1 into here and 1 into here, this one should give me negative 8. And this one, well, the square root of 1 is 1. Negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. So we would have negative 8 times negative 1, which would give me 8. Now we would have f of g of 25. So this one is a composition because g is plugged into f. So for this thing, I would have to write f on the outside. And if you remember, f was the function 4. And then instead of writing x, we're going to plug in the function g, which is negative 2 square root of, and because it's 25, we won't write an x, we'll write 25 right here, plus 1. And then out here was minus 15. Normally what I had you guys do is find this first and then plug it in. So when we do that, we should get negative 10 plus 1, which is negative 9. So we have 4 times negative 9 minus 15, which should be negative 36 minus 15, which I'll double check. Yeah, negative 51. Okay. The next one we would have would be h of g of x. And again, h of x is x squared minus 9, and g of x is negative 2 radical x plus 1. And that would be my final answer because I can't simplify it any further. So that would be it. Let's do this last one, f of h of x. F of x again was 4 parentheses, and then we'll plug h into there, minus 15. Take the 4 and I distribute it to both of those. I would get 4x squared minus 36 minus 15, and that should be 4x squared minus 51. Okay, those are the first couple of problems. I'm going to write down the next couple ones and we'll go through that question number 2. Okay, so this is 2 part A, and what they want us to do is they want us to find the inverse of this. So the first step to find the inverse is whenever you find an inverse, you want to switch x and y. So we'll switch x and y and we'll get x equals 2y squared minus 5. And from this part we'll solve and we'll get y by itself now. So we're going to add 5 to both sides. And we'll get x plus 5 is equal to 2y squared. And we'll divide by 2. And we'll get y squared is equal to x plus 5 over 2. And when I take the square root, those will cancel. Whenever you take a square root, you do have to do plus or minus, because you could have 2 answers. And that would be my final answer. Let's look at part B. Okay, so here's the next one. And I know on your page it says f of x, but anytime it says f of x, it really is the same as y, so just replace it with a y. Again, we're going to take its inverse. To take its inverse, you're going to switch the x and the y. So we're going to get x equals 2y over 3 minus 5. Add 5 to both sides. We'll get x plus 5 is equal to 2y over 3 times by 3 to get rid of that 3. When you do that, it's going to have to distribute on the other side, which would give me 3x plus 15 equals 2y. Then divide by 2, we'll get y is equal to 3x plus 15 over 2. Again, that's the inverse. Try that now. Okay, so in this one, what I would want to do is, again, since we're taking the inverse, we're going to switch the x and y. And when I do that, I'm going to get x equals the square root of y minus 4 plus 1 out here. I'll then subtract the 1. Normally you worry about the exponents at the end when you're solving these things, so don't square the thing right away. We'll now square this. I'll cancel with that. I'll get x minus 1 squared equals y minus 4. Add 4. Add 4. I'll get my final answer to be y equals x minus 1 squared plus 4. You could probably simplify that a little bit more by dealing with the squared, but it seems a little unnecessary, especially because you're just trying to get y by itself. Let's do another one. Okay, inverses. At this point, you'll probably know we need to switch the x and y. We'll get x equals 2y squared plus 5 over 4. At this point, we'll times by 4 to get rid of it off the bottom there. We'll get 4x is equal to 2y squared plus 5. We'll get rid of that 5, so subtract it from both sides. I'll get 2y squared equals 4x minus 5. Divide by 2, divide by 2. We'll get y squared equals 4x minus 5 over 2. Then we'll take the square root of both sides. Again, whenever you take a square root, you need a plus or minus, because there could technically be 2 answers. And that would be my final answer. And again, I know it's my final answer because I have y by itself. Let's look at some composition. Okay, so this is going to be a lot like the video you watched on Friday. We're going to see if these two things are inverses. And to do that, we're going to use composition. So we're going to say f of g of x. We're going to see if that equals x, which hopefully it will. And then we're going to do the same thing with g of f of x. Let's see if that works. So let's do f of g of x first. So that'd be 2 times 1/2 x plus 5 minus 5. Well, we'll have to deal with the 2 first, and that would distribute. And I would get that cancels, so I'll get x plus 10 minus 5, and that would be x plus 5, which is not x. So, no, not an inverse. Nice, we don't even have to check the other side. So again, yeah, if you don't get x for this final answer, it's not right. It's not the answer. Sweet, so let's do the next one. Okay, let's do this one. So, f of g of x. So we'll put the parentheses in the squared. Minus 4. These will cancel. And then 4 minus 4. So we get x on that one. So it looks like this thing might be an inverse, but we have to check it again the other way, which means that I have to do the square root of x squared minus 4 plus 4, because we're going to plug f into g. And that would give us the well, those are going to cancel. Those will cancel. So we're going to be left with x. So both of these are x's, so this is an inverse. That's how you do all the problems on the first page. The next video will have all the problems for the back side of that front page, and then I'll keep doing the rest of the problems.